This is the area where all the biggest spiders live. And I'm not afraid of spiders, but sometimes I think about whether I should get rid of them or not. But then I remember that actually the stuff that they eat, I hate more than spiders. So I guess it's funny to try to sum up, like, sort of what do you do? What is it that you actually do? I have always been somewhere between art and applied art, I suppose, in some ways. So this is some tiles that I'm working on that will actually go behind the wood burner. And the idea came from these kind of like decorations that used to be done in Devon, which are based on these kind of geometrical patterns, but then they had sort of inlays, panels on the sides. I decided to replace those panels with a sort of Ukrainian motif, which is the like very typical tree of life motif. This one is actually based on a towel that is from Dnipro. It represents all aspects of life. Often the lower sections represent the realm of the dead or the past. Sometimes you would have different generations of the family because a lot of it was also linked to the cult of the ancestors. It would be a manifestation of the continuation of time and the sort of the growth of life. It's supposed to, I guess, make one aware of the life beyond just the lifespan of one human being. There's obviously the tradition also of using paper cutting as a decorative feature in Ukrainian culture, and because this is folded and then cut, it gives it a sort of symmetry which really makes it feel more like a plant, more organic. There's something about it, the way it mirrors itself. Ornaments are also a manifestation of the type of life that people had before collectivization, and people just had the type of life where they were more engaged in these kind of things. You know, if you only see it as a surface decoration, maybe it does become pointless. But I also find it really interesting. I was reading about these pattern books. There were patterns that were spells, and you had to apply them to things to activate them. And I try to think of it more in that sort of way, that it is like a spell, and you have to put it onto things and you have to use it, and then you'll figure out what power it actually has. I don't know, it might feel unsatisfactory at first because it makes you think, like, is it just a nostalgic thing? Is it just a purely superficial repetition? But I think you can't find out until you practice, and that's the thing with ornament, it needs to be practiced to be understood and to be renewed and to be relevant. Touch dry. Probably needs to dry a little bit in between the layers now. It's probably quite satisfying to watch it being peeled off. We'll see how it looks when it's actually, so the panel will go there. That's the sort of the idea of, here's the original. Traditionally these patterns were made in Devon and around fireplaces, and they would have been made in sgraffito sort of technique. And this is kind of Devon meets Dnipro. So this is a fabric pattern that I'm printing currently, and it's based on this actually very popular pattern book by Mykola Samokish. He went to the archaeological fair in Kharkiv in 1902 and did sketches, actually quite rough sort of sketches of embroideries from shirts. So I adapted one of his patterns. I mean, what caught my eye was Of course, I mean, they're very beautifully done, but I think also a longing for my hometown, Kharkiv. And I wanted to combine it with these plywood chairs that I designed, so I'm gonna print a few more of these. The first time I have to put the paint on is a little bit more of a process, because then obviously the more times I print, the more it gets built up, so it's a bit easier, but the first one I just have to go over it a few times to even it out. The only thing that I changed really is I made the central stem into sort of a bean pod. Somehow Kharkiv is quite linked to my grandmother and her house, and she had these beans growing in her garden, runner beans, and they were just so magical when I was a kid, and you would open them up and they would be like little jewels. So that's my little personal insertion of like Kharkiv. Although I lived like in an urban area in Kharkiv, even then like nature is so present. My grandmother, my memories is just like her overflowing like apricot tree. The whole street where the houses were just covered in like fruits that had dropped from the trees. But yeah, these are the type of beans that my grandmother used to grow that sort of inspired these bee patterns. Kernels of life.